got mail. Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2.0 on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Edmund, your host for the next hour or so, along with Miss Katie.
She's I. Good morning.
Morning. And Nick is here.
Hello. Good morning.
Morning. And Gal is here.
Good morning, everybody.
Spence is still in Alaska. I think one more week, he said. Yeah. One more week.
Dude needs to start a travel blog. Yeah. Goes
He had a
everywhere.
Facebook group that he was using a couple of years ago, but I don't know that he's using it this year.
He's not. I haven't seen
okay.
anything. Yeah.
He had one though. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, Nick, you need to go with him and film his journeys and then make a YouTube series.
All right, our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And today's show is made possible by vMix Software and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. Yeah, go ahead, Katie. What were you saying?
Brain empty.
Oh.
I was making jokes. Keep going with the show.
Hey, Nick, congratulations.
Thanks, Sam. I appreciate it. Yep.
First, I went and I didn't go to your page. I just looked at all the announcements, and we're talking about Nick is now doing the Carolina Journal every morning on WBT in Charlotte.
Yes, sir.
Nice.
There was no time when, and all the when I searched for you, all the posts, there was no time. There was nothing about the time. And I said, well, what time is it? But when I went to your page, I saw it.
So what time?
So 5 to 6, right?
Oh, yeah, there you go. Well, dark and early.
Yeah, well, it's fine. I mean, that's how it starts, I guess. And then they say, can you do another hour? Can you do another 2 hours? So it's fine. It's good. It's
exciting.
Good. And this way, it's really leaving you enough time in the day to have a real job.
Yeah, exactly. to go to sleep for 4 more hours at 6:30 a.m.
So then you pick up another radio show in the evening.
Yeah. So it's good. I'm looking forward to it.
No, good.
It'll also be on it'll be live on YouTube. Not tomorrow, but probably midweek.
So before the show, you said you're redoing your audio setup.
Yeah.
What? Mm-hmm. What are you doing technically?
Well, I got a piece of equipment called a Comrex Access NX, which is an audio codec that they use in it's very popular in radio for sending audio remotely. Very similar to think about it like a Skype call or a Zoom call, but it's a specific physical hardware device that is made for remote broadcasting. So I had to redo my audio interface and setup to get audio to that and mix minus and all that stuff.
So that's how it gets from you to WBT.
Correct.
Nice.
Hey,
just remember us small people when you move on to bigger and better things.
No.
Washington.
No, I do not intend on. I'm going to do my damnedest not to leave Wilmington, let alone the state.
So like a true New Yorker.
A New Yorkin.
Yankee. Sorry.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I was told once a Yankee, always a Yankee.
Yeah, damn Yankee.
Yep. Well, Amnon's also kind of a damn Yankee, but it doesn't work because he's also not from the country. Right. So like they look past the Yankee part.
He's
like,
a foreign Yankee.
He's just a general foreigner. Like it doesn't matter if he's a Yankee or not.
It's a damn foreigner.
Transplant.
That was a
damn transplant.
Growing up, Amnon said that he was an alien, and I was like, "You're not an alien. You're too human." And he's like, "No," and he pulled out his card that said alien because like you're not from the States. And I was like, "Oh my god, he's an alien!"
Yeah.
Official government documentation.
It's the term.
Yeah, I'm a legal alien as well.
Yeah.
Like the what's a Sting song, right?
But Katie was very young, and
Yeah.
she actually got scared, kind of.
Yeah. I was like, you're not an alien. You're not gonna trick me. You look too human. What are you talking about? You're not from outer space. And you're like, look, whips out your driver's license or whatever it is and said alien on it. It's like, oh
Yeah,
my
and you
god.
probably saw Men in Black like 3 months earlier or something.
Right. I was waiting for somebody to whip out a pin that flashed, and then I was gonna forget everything. See, that's what's wrong with me. That's why I can't remember
Or
anything.
he pulls his Marvin the Martian costume out of the closet, and then you're really screwed.
Yeah.
Well, he does go. He does walk most of the time in a costume. So yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I do. Yep. All right. So what's been happening? Anybody wants to open
Apple
with it?
did you guys cover the Apple press conference or is that this week or last week?
It was last week.
Okay.
We didn't talk about it because it was.
So Apple's got a new iPhone that's coming out.
Yeah.
It has a new iPhone every year.
Yeah, this one this is the iPhone 16, I believe is the
Right.
name of this one. And a lot of buzzwords, a lot of AI this, AI that on it. It's got some kind of interesting features. It's got a new processor, Apple's A series chips. I think it's the A18 or A19 on this one. And they're, like always, pushing mobile gaming pretty hard. But new iPhone for those that are on the fence. The 16, I won't get it right away, but I think I'm kind of in the ballpark for a new phone.
Yeah, and they also said that the screen is bigger.
Oh, that sells me. And I'm not being facetious because I don't really care about the features, but I read and do like everything on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's bigger than because I have a 14 Pro Max, then when I update my phone, I definitely go for a bigger one. Eventually, I'm just gonna have a tablet in my pocket, which I'm okay with.
So why not go with the folding stuff that's out today?
One because I want to be able to hold it in my one hand. Okay. This is what I do. When I read, I go and I lay down in my bed and I have the phone in my one hand and on my head on the pillow and I scroll with one hand. So if it's the open phone, it's gonna be harder for me to like lay in bed and scroll. I thought about it. I almost bought one, but then they didn't have any in stock around me, and I didn't want to wait a week for them to deliver it. But yeah, so if I could still hold it in my one hand, then I'm gonna lean towards that.
Well, I mean, there's always the element of weight, right? So with this portable small thing, it's still supposed to be also light. I don't think the folding ones are light, unless you're looking at the one that folds to half, right?
No, I was looking at the book one.
The one that opens to a double size. Yeah. So.
Yeah, they're really cool though.
One of my friends had it for a while, and I think he still has it. He enjoys it immensely.
Yeah, one of my friends has it, and it's pretty nifty when he pulls it out and like opens it, and I'm like, whoa, living in the future.
Yeah.
There was an article, I didn't save it, about Huawei from China showing their triple fold.
Oh,
so what is a brochure?
Brochure. Typical trifold. I mean,
yeah, trifold.
You know what it's gonna be like? It's gonna be like those wallets from like the 90s and 80s where they had pictures of kids and like, here's my phone. It's like a square, and then they like an accordion.
But it's. I think it's still interesting to see the thickness of it.
Oh God, this thing looks absolutely stupid.
Yeah.
Which one? The Huawei?
Huawei. I
Okay,
mean, it literally
I
looks.
don't
It literally looks like a brochure.
Share your screen. I don't
Hold
know how
on.
to do that, but do
Yeah,
that.
let me see if I can. Yeah, let me see if I can get a copy of the image in here. This looks. This is absurd. I don't know if this is a real image.
well, they do things just to show the world that they are.
Well, then they're
I
not
mean, look at this
necessarily
thing.
selling it, right?
I'm
I mean,
not
this
log,
is-
log on to Nick's
Wait, guys. Let
camera.
put it on. Let Nick say something so he's.
Yeah. So this is on the article from MSN. I don't know that this is an actual product. I think maybe they're more doing a tech demo on the availability to fold. But at this point, that's the size of an iPad, close to the size of an iPad Mini, fully unfolded by the looks of it, or at least close to it. That thing is
Huh.
thing's massive.
Actually, you know what? I can kind of dig it. Oh, I'm not locked to his screen, so I can talk about it with it on a screen.
You would make me do that, wouldn't you?
Yep. Nick, talk again. Oh, there we go. Yeah, you know what? I kind of like this, and not as my main phone, but if I had to carry around my tablet
Not as your
and my
main phone. The thing's like $3,000.
I know, but I see the potential for this for them like bringing down the money eventually, because that's all I have is with technology is I bring my iPad places and I use it, for D&D and stuff or for where game night or whatever. But if I could bring that and then it could fit in my pocket and just pull it out, that I could see the portability of it being a big selling point.
Interesting. So the thickness of it folded is exactly the same as the folded Galaxy one.
Wow.
So even though it opens to 3 times the size, right? It's exactly the same size as the option that opens twice the size. So like
Ooh.
if you're comparing, right, and you're needing to choose, I think this one, unless the technology is like completely wonk, this one is a no-brainer. This one is amazing.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I can dig it because like this photo shows that how you can use it as a phone. Like if it's like the phone size, and then you're like, oh, I need to go bigger, and you just whoop,
Yeah.
open it up. Yeah, I try it. Also, that
Yeah.
looks like an AI image, and you could tell because the reflections on some of the shiny bits is weird on the camera.
I don't know. It's definitely a rendered image. I don't know that I'd call it an AI image. They're both. These aren't real. These aren't real product photos. These are their.
Well, the one I'm looking at is a comparison of a side by side of the devices in the hand of somebody. So looks legit.
Oh yeah.
Actually.
Okay. Yeah. Here's another one.
Yeah, these are prototypes, but cool.
This also doesn't look real. Hard to tell with this one. This also looks fake.
Yeah, it's not real. And you
Are
can
you
tell.
looking at an image search on Google or something?
I'm on
because
Bing.
I see one from GSM Arena.
Okay, let me switch over. Let's find that.
What you need to look for is the reflection on the screen, and none of these images have reflections on the screens.
Let's see.
But, I mean, still, even if it's a proof of concept, prototype, image, whatever, it's pretty cool.
Well, there's one. Yeah, there's definitely
here's one.
There's definitely a Rin one from New India Express from a show with somebody holding it in hand. And
I see this one too.
Oh, see, it's got the reflections on the screen.
Yeah, this one's definitely real. It just looks. It looks impractical though.
I don't know. I tried.
Well, everybody said that about the Fold, and once people started using it, like they couldn't do without it. Those who managed to actually use it and not break it and all that, right? They're in love with it. So
until they break it.
Well, it all depends on how you break it, right?
Yeah.
There are those who just by opening and close it for I don't know, a week broke it, but there are those who apparently when it's in their bag or whatever or in they handle it and
no,
as long as
no. It's those. Wait, first I need to find out how to unpin.
Just right click somewhere in the middle of the image and unpin. Remove pin. Yeah.
Read.
That's one. That's the one.
Uh, um, no, the thing, Nick, is those that didn't break it are the ones that left it on their desk when they leave. It's always open on a stand and it sits there and that's it. It's never
No,
get
no.
folded or anything.
I think those who didn't break it are the ones who paid for it.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I
that's true too.
my friend that has one, he's pretty he uses it. I mean, like a regular phone, but he also paid for it. So I'm with
Yeah.
Gall, and he's had it for a while, and he really loves it.
Mm.
So
Well, looks like Samsung has a prototype like that as well.
I think it's a Samsung. It's definitely a Samsung panel. So that would make sense if Samsung is making the panel for it, that they would also end up selling the a similar version of it. Huawei just may have been first to market with the physical product, but that would make sense.
Yeah, they're trying
Brave
hard.
new world, huh? Very interesting.
either way, I'd try it. Would I
The
spend
moment I could afford
$3,000?
it,
No.
the moment I could afford it, I will definitely give it a try.
Mm.
And I started. So my first cell phone wasn't a cell phone; it was the Galaxy Tab. It was the 7-inch tablet that they came out with.
You're saying your
And
first smartphone.
my first smartphone, yeah.
Okay.
And uh, I I wasn't interested in the Apple one at all. Just by the sheer marketing hubris around it. Apple always bugged me with their marketing. Anyway, when Android announced that they were coming out with phones, it was an interesting thing. But I said, yeah, I'm not diving into first generation anything. It's going to be crap anyway. And then Samsung came out with that Galaxy Tab, which was it was a beast. I have it still in one of my drawers, and it was thick as hell. It doesn't look anything like modern tablets today or cell phones. Thick as hell, but because I could make using Bluetooth, I could make phone calls with it. I said, now that's something I'm interested to have in my um, uh, my man purse. Basically, that's what I was walking around with at the time. So um, that was awesome. The, that was a form factor. What made me really 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 fall in love with it was the first time that I realized I can use it as a GPS, and it I had that 7-inch display on my dashboard, right? Uh with Waze running on it. It was completely awesome. So these I can definitely see the appeal of having a
Yeah.
large screen working with it and being portable, right? Uh yeah.
Yeah, there's
It's
always, I mean, they don't come out with stuff that nobody would buy, but it's not going to be
Yeah, but
the,
it usually takes time until they figure out
yeah.
how, you know, how to
W-
package it correctly.
And Apple had to come up with a new phone. I mean, they had no choice because they had to pay the EU, what, $50 billion, 50 million,
Some yeah.
$50 million.
Which is
Uh,
like nothing to Apple. They make like
and
$200 billion a year or whatever it is.
well, but still, I mean, okay, so let's come up with a new phone and the all the people that buy every year buy their newer phone are going to pay for this, so it's fine. Anyway,
Did you guys see the story about United Airlines and their Wi-Fi?
no,
No.
I've got it here, and I said to myself, "Come on, what took so long?"
So, United Airlines is going to be working with SpaceX to provide Wi-Fi, which is great.
Uh,
The cool news about it is it's going to be free,
yeah,
so free Wi-Fi on United for all passengers. Now, I'm sure, like staying at a hotel, there'll be the base free Wi-Fi for everybody. If you need higher throughput or bandwidth, you'll probably pay $8 to $20 or depending on what they charge for that. But free in-flight Wi-Fi for all customers starting in 2020. It doesn't say when, it just says in 2025.
Wow.
So that's pretty cool. That's
Well,
big. And it's going to put
technology
Viasat
wise,
essentially out of business once the airlines are done with Viasat. They're pretty much going to be done.
yeah, probably. But very interesting. So the most interesting part of this is that means SpaceX already has a mobile system,
Yep.
right? Because
Yeah.
they were stalling for a long time, saying that their systems are not mobile, right? They're stationary. So
And the other thing to note, and one of the things that United notes, is that the service will be available gate to gate. So currently, Wi-Fi doesn't turn on until you hit
right,
10,000 feet or whatever.
yeah,
This is gate to gate. So the second you go through the terminal and get on your plane, you'll be able to connect to the Starlink, the United Wi-Fi that's Starlink, and maybe immediately during takeoff, or you might have some little issues here and there depending on how heavy you're banking right on takeoff. But gate to gate Wi-Fi for free um, is great, and you can imagine if United is striking this deal that American and a couple of other airlines probably won't be far behind. It may or may not be Starlink, but offering Wi-Fi for free. I would imagine that's it's going to be the first domino in that. It's going to be hard to justify spending $16 on Wi-Fi on American crappy latency heavy Viasat when you can fly United for a similar price and
not
it's
that
free and available gate
you
to
can
gate.
get Wi-Fi and actually watch YouTube or something, right?
That's going to be the other question. Is I wonder how
Well,
they're going to limit it. That's going to
Yeah.
be a
the-
question.
they're saying here that uh, aiming to keep flyers loyal by offering a zippier, more reliable browsing and downloads that the carrier expects will mirror what travelers are used to on the ground.
Yeah, which would be if you're on the ground with your phone. The real Gal brings up a good point though. Will they allow you to stream YouTube? Will they allow you? Everybody always talks about video calls. Nobody's doing a
Yeah.
freaking video call on an airplane. I mean, who the hell?
Right. Yeah.
Like it's just
Yeah,
not
you
a
call
thing.
grandma.
Yeah, but you're called grandma when you're sitting on the tarmac. I mean, you're not having a I mean, if you're just a complete and utter douche, maybe you're having a full on phone conversation on an airplane. But for most people, it would be YouTube, Netflix, or just generally screwing around on the internet, especially on those short flights, like the 40-minute leg between Wilmington and Charlotte or Charlotte and Atlanta, whatever it might be. That's where just being able to browse the internet is great, and can't do that now unless you're willing to pay for it, which doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense.
Yep.
So yeah, it's pretty cool. I'm excited. I don't fly United a whole lot, but I will definitely, when they fully roll this out, I will keep that in mind as I'm figuring out where I'm going to fly and who I'm going to fly with.
Here,
Well, we're United devotees, at least at least before the war in Israel. Right now, we can't use them to fly to Israel.
They're still not flying into Israel.
Every time they announce that they're flying, it takes a few weeks and then they cancel because something's happening. And I'm guessing their airline crews just are not willing to take the risk.
Sure.
They're not involved, right? So I don't blame them in any way. It's just a bummer.
it will pass.
It will pass, yeah,
Yeah.
eventually. Eventually, this war will subdue, I hope, in a peaceful way, some sort of agreement. But let's not get into
Yeah.
that.
When you were flying United to Israel, were you able to fly directly from Raleigh, or did you have to go to like LaGuardia or somewhere?
No, Newark.
Newark, okay.
Yeah.
I was curious.
Which Newark is a much better entry point to the States than, let's say, JFK, right?
Sure.
So, so that was part of that. And their credit card membership deals are much better than any of the other airlines.
You bring up an interesting point. I wonder how this. I know Starlink obviously works internationally. I'd be curious on an international flight, especially over the middle of the Atlantic, if
Mhm.
that service is available. I don't know. I have to go and look at a map to see their current satellite setup. Definitely in the continental United States, but I don't know what their coverage looks like in Europe. I don't know. Are they even rolled out over there? Are they offering service there? I have no
I
idea.
don't remember any talk about that, so I don't know. That's a good point. Well, we'll have
I I
until right after 2025. We'll start asking these
Sure.
questions again. So,
I read an article that said that they just launched their 7,000 uh, satellite 2 weeks ago.
Starlink is available in most European countries. It has been available in Germany since 2021. Hmm.
interesting, interesting.
Yeah, but what about over the ocean? Or what? That's
Well,
that's interesting, and they may just put a couple of them just to cover it.
you got to remember though, they're not putting a couple. These are not geostationary. So these are low orbit
Yeah,
moving satellites. So they have to you can't just put them there. You have to have a constant path of
right.
satellites
Well,
over the area. Um
yeah, but they also don't have any interference. It's an
well,
open area, so you don't
no,
need.
but it also would be a huge freaking waste of money to have a bunch of low orbit satellites hovering over the Atlantic Ocean for, a couple dozen international flights a day. I mean, that's just a huge waste of
Not
money.
if the money's there.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that I mean, when you look at I'm looking at the Starlink map of where it's available, and obviously you can see all of the United States and some parts of Europe and Africa, but the ocean they don't have they wouldn't
yeah,
offer you service in the ocean.
yeah.
But I bet you for sailors, um, let's, let's ask our good friend ChatGPT what's going on.
I
Mm,
wonder. I wonder though. This is mine's going all different ways. Um,
Apparently, SpaceX and Starlink have a specifically designed service for maritime use that can provide internet access in the middle of the ocean, including a vast majority of the Atlantic Ocean.
oh,
They have a Starlink maritime hardware, which is more robust than residential dishes.
yeah.
so
There you go.
right now, in this specific height, this is only Starlink, right?
For what? The
At
planes or the
this,
boats?
no, I mean in general, the service that is based on these low orbit satellites,
Oh, yes, that's
right?
just
Only
Starlink.
Star, right? So what I'm thinking about, um, this is uh this is going back to 1800 Caribbean pirates things. Right now, they're the only company operating at that area. What will happen when somebody else tries to, especially if these are moving, right? Then coordination is very important. And not only that, there's going to be a turf war eventually, right? And how will that look like? That's science fiction things, right? You'll start today in order for shipping lines to be secure and protected from troubled areas, right? You actually need the military escort. Will we get to that point, right? In satellite deployment and in in areas of that will need protection. Will there be an arms race there up there? This is this is definitely science fiction time.
It's definitely um one of the situations where being first to market it definitely helps. It looks
Yeah.
like everybody else kind of has to slide in. Um it's a
Yeah,
good
but the
point.
thing is, if are they going to play nice, right? Because if I
Elon
don't know,
Musk
if
now.
Russia suddenly, yeah, but if Russia suddenly decides to launch their own there, right? Like a Russian entity decides to do it, and they care zero about Elon Musk and his tech oligarchy, right? Um, how will that look like? That's very interesting.
They'll block the sun. That's what will happen. And then there's not going to
Or
be.
better yet, not Russia, but let's say South Africa decides to, step their game up, and they have a beef to grind with Musk.
I mean,
doing all of his business in the US and not in South Africa.
This is the current SpaceX satellite list. This is a live map. I don't know what the white ones are. Let's see. Okay, the white ones are the big satellites. The red ones are the mini satellites, but you can see how many of these things there are that are hovering around right now. There's one passing between Raleigh and Wilmington right now.
Yeah, there
you see how many. But to Gal's point, there's a shit ton of these things, and they're all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to be fair, right? These are the size of something between a car and a truck.
Right? I think so. Yeah.
And when we go parallel from the surface, right, and we're looking at orbit from the surface, then there's even more space in between the dots, right? So yeah, there's a shit ton, but they're minuscule. But still, it doesn't mean that there's not going to be a turf war of I don't want you, I don't know, 10 kilometers radius from me, right? So yeah, interesting.
They're gonna
amazing.
Go ahead.
I'm just saying it's amazing.
Yeah, they just think about it. They will.
So I guess the Atlantic Ocean definitely won't be a problem. I mean, these satellites are all over the place, so I guess it'll be good.
Gal, they will add AI to all these satellites, and they'll be able to solve the problem between them.
So you mean
they will have?
This is how Skynet starts.
This is how our AI overlords they decide
you
that,
give them weapons to defend
Yep,
themselves against other AI, and they just
Yep.
say, "Who are these pesky humans?" Right?
Yeah.
And then
there needs to be a movie made or a book written where all the satellites lock up and they're like, okay, we're gonna block out the sun. Earth needs to restart.
I think something like that exists for sure. That sounds familiar.
There's a real threat of a major space collision that would cause a chain reaction that could not only be technologically incredibly disruptive, but could cause all hell to break loose on Earth.
Yeah.
If you had hundreds, thousands of satellites all pummeling to the Earth, obviously most of it would burn up in re-entry, but there would definitely be stuff that would make it through. There's the real possibility. That's been discussed for 40 years of a major
those
pile up. Think about a major car accident, but in space.
Yeah, but don't they have the missiles that go after other missiles? So they could just go after the satellites.
Who's shooting the missiles?
Amount, right?
I don't know. I just always like in the news. They're like, "Oh, this country tried to attack this country, but they intercepted it. And they intercepted it with like another missile."
Yeah. So I mean that happened, right? Iran with their barrage of missiles fired at Israel a few months ago, and intercepting them, while was successful, it still does not mean that it's an easy feat. Plus, every counter missile like that is hell expensive, right? So it's the defense here might be even more expensive than the attack. So
it's just training for when
still,
the aliens attack.
Yeah, I'm not sure we're ready for an alien full-blown attack. Peace agreements will probably be the better choice, but that might not be on the table. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, and Katie, you're mentioning something that would be somebody trying to disrupt the Starlink or any other satellite, and the real risk is something that it goes rogue and loses control and causes that serious pileup. It really only takes two or three things to get moving in a wrong direction for hell to break loose pretty quickly. That's the scary part of all of this. It's a lot different with geostationary. It's the rotation is so much slower and it's so much further away.
Mhm.
But with these things are barely floating in space. And that's why they move so quickly.
I'm waiting for the Netflix show to come out next year.
Another one. Another one.
Yeah. Yeah, somebody do a pun about Starlink and disaster. Disaster link. Ah, there we go. Disaster link.
Don't say that
The
too loud, so
weakest
somebody
link.
might sue you.
The weakest link.
The weakest link. Bum, bum, bum. Okay, now that just sounds like a 1950s War of the Worlds Twilight Zone episode.
All right. Let's see here. Gosh, we're already big time into
There's
shows.
one thing that we should mention. I'm on
Yeah.
the link you
Oh
sent me.
yes, yeah. I mean, it's
So
fine. We have time. I mean, that what I was going to
yeah,
bring.
no, but I mean,
What is what I
let's go
was
there.
going to
Let's
wait. What I
let
was going to bring here has to do with that time. So it says
okay.
in a newsletter for Bloomberg, Ashley Carman discusses the rising trend of long podcasts and their surprising popularity among listeners. By today's standards of interminable podcast discussions, and nearly 3-hour recording isn't even particularly notable. She writes, highlighting recent episodes from Joe Rogan, 2 hours, 16 minutes with Adam Sandler. Lex Freeman, 8 hours, 37 minutes with Elon Musk. I mean, that guy wanted to get everything out of Musk probably during this one
Well, I
interview.
don't know. I don't know if it's a single 8 hours. There,
Yeah, it is.
Him and Musk, they met at least 3 or 4 times for
Okay,
podcasts.
they're talking about the length of the recording.
Video. Yeah.
That's interesting. So I don't know.
Yeah. He keeps coming back. Elon Musk really likes Lex Friedman and vice versa. So like they really like the discussion.
Increasingly, podcasters are pushing the outer limits of episode length while stress testing the endurance of their audiences. Popular podcast gabfests can now run on for half a work day or longer.
It doesn't matter. The length of the episode does not matter a bit because especially if people watch it after the fact and not as a live thing, and that's usually the thing because it's not, usually it's not even a live stream. And not only that is when it is posted, it's posted with chapters. You watch what you are interested in that. You're not limited. And it allows the editing to go back to the audience and not necessarily to whoever is producing it to decide this isn't good. So the producer, their responsibility are quality of audio, making sure the cuts between video works fine if video is involved, but and maybe even taking out like fluff that really isn't about the discussion at hand. But overall, you get something that is very close to an uncut version, and you do If they sat down to talk and they found it interesting enough to talk for a few hours, why should he only give the 30 minutes? He doesn't have a slot to fill, right? There's no limit in the time frame that he needs to push out. So, hell yeah, give me everything and let me decide what to listen to.
Well, another key component to this is that this isn't like a TV show or a movie. People aren't just sitting. There's probably a very low percentage of people just spending 100% of their focus on this podcast or video. They probably have it on in the background, which is what I do. Like when I'm listening to a podcast, I'm usually working or doing something else. And so I like the longer format because I could just have it on running in the background and listen. I feel like that's the majority. That it's like radio. It's like people are doing something while they're listening to radio. Generally, they're usually not just sitting in a dark room only listening to radio. That's what
But you
podcasts
only
do.
get the show that you like. You don't
Yeah,
get
exactly.
the other shows.
What were you saying, Nick?
This is an interesting discussion coming from the radio world because of what Gal and Katie were mentioning. When you come from traditional media, whether that be radio, television, or movies, a little bit different, but radio or television, it's changing. But let's go back 20 years to the early 2000s. Right, cable networks had essentially one channel. There was no Fox Now, there was no NBC News Now. They're over the air streaming things. You had one channel that you were paying for that was on all these different cable providers, all these different satellite providers, and that airtime was very expensive because that was the only thing that you could get out. Same, and radio is the same way now. So as podcasting has kind of taken off, it's interesting. When I started doing the radio show in Wilmington, there was some discussion about cutting up the show and only making certain parts of it available. And I pushed back against that heavily and fortunately won that battle because of what Gal just mentioned. If what Gal might be interested in listening to that I covered over 3 hours and what Katie might be interested in listening to and what I covered over 3 hours is very different. So why not give them, the consumer, the entire show and let them decide what they want to listen to? And so that's been a very interesting thing in radio.
But that was the problem of the stations, the radio station is
but it's a mindset issue.
Yeah, they wanted
we're locked in.
They wanted people to come to listen on the air. They did
not necessarily.
Oh, that's what they told me when we started doing streaming, or no, when we wanted to put a chat on,
what year was
on the
this,
show.
Though?
And no,
yeah, but that's because online you couldn't sell ads as effectively,
right,
as on the air.
That's changed now. And you've seen most of these companies. If you've listened to terrestrial radio recently, specifically iHeartRadio, which owns a bunch of stations in Raleigh, they're always pushing exclusive podcasts and things like that on the air because they, like Gal mentioned, there's now a significant marketplace. Amnon, when you and I began doing the podcast stuff, there was no money in it. I mean, there was just no way to. You had like a couple of guys, Leo Laporte and Twit were one of them, and a couple of others that were successful in selling advertising baked into podcasts. And now it's a completely different space.
Yeah, but
I listen to a 3-hour weekly podcast that doesn't have any ads at all. Their revenue model is Patreon. They do a 3-hour live stream every Friday, and there's never been an ad on the show. There's not even YouTube ads on it. It's demonetized on YouTube. They choose that, and it's strictly paid for by Patreon.
I also follow some people on Patreon, mostly authors, because they release chapters, and so I think I follow like 3 or 4 authors every month on Patreon. And it's interesting. These subscription services like Patreon, and there's some other ones I can't think of at the moment, but they allow independent artists or podcasters or whoever to branch out on their own and go directly to their customers. So if the customer decides, hey, I really like these people, I want to send them money directly, so I don't have to go through this other thing. And yeah, Patreon gets their cut, but like
Sure.
you said, there's no ads. And not only that, but with these services, they can interact directly with uh the the creator and ask for content. So I'll follow another podcaster. They have a YouTube channel, um, but I listen to their podcast on Spotify, and they have Patreon exclusive stuff where they'll every week they'll release 2 episodes, and it'll be like an hour. And if you want the extended cut, you go to their Patreon. Or if they're talking about stuff that they could get in trouble for and they don't want to deal with their sponsors being upset or whatever, you can listen to it on Patreon.
Yeah. And that's the model, and that's what's been so interesting to follow. There is still a huge debate over how much is too much though with the time, but I don't subscribe to that discussion at all.
So
I got that discussion all the time, and oh, 30 minutes is a good length, an hour is a good length. I think if it's good content, 8 hours could be a good length. I mean, I don't. It's a very archaic, it's a very traditional media archaic mindset to put a podcast into a segmented time. It's very, very archaic.
so
I
you
think
guys
too.
so you guys don't think we made a mistake by going down to an hour?
No.
No, I don't
No,
think
no,
so.
because we're not getting paid.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
So it,
Well,
it
speak for yourself, Gal. I don't know about
consider
it. Speak for yourself.
I know you are being paid like 1,000 times more than me, but
Yes.
I think it still comes up to the same amount. So
yeah.
Okay.
This is my charity work.
No, I mean, I was reading this and I was
Charity work, Jesus.
I
Nick,
can
were
write it off
you
on my taxes.
Nick, were you with us when we were 3 hours?
Yeah, right at the start. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Back in 20, that would have been
I
like
don't remember, yeah.
2014, 2013, 2014. Yeah. But you
And
got to remember that was a different time. And I think the reason that we looked at going from 1 hour to 2 hours is that we were kind of filling content
yeah,
when we
we
didn't
were.
need to. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so now we've been on the air about probably about what 40-ish minutes, 45 minutes maybe so far, 50 minutes. When the conversation ends, you're done.
Yeah.
But that's a very hard mindset to get anybody that has spent any time in traditional media to understand, because that's not thing. You have Sean Hannity is on from 9 till 10 p.m. There's no longer or shorter or interesting or not interesting. That is your hour block. That's the show. You fill an hour with when I start tomorrow morning at 5 o'clock. I fill an hour, whether it's interesting or not interesting. I have an hour of content I have to fill.
Yeah.
And so it's very different from the podcast, the only podcast realm.
There was another problem in the early days about podcasts. About broadcasting the show live from the radio. Whoever is sitting there, like you tomorrow, you're going to go on the air, but you're also going to go on the internet.
Correct.
And in the beginning, maybe a year or two, they couldn't do it with commercials.
Correct. Yep, that's an issue that I'm dealing with as well
because of licenses. Because how many people are listening? They pay licenses according. Okay, yeah, you have, according to us, you have 20,000 listeners. So this is how much of the licensing for the. Well, I forgot who's the names of
ASCAP and BMI.
ASCAP and BMI.
That's the company name.
Well, it's not ASS, not ASS, ASCAP.
CAP, yeah.
It's
CAPP
still, though,
or something
what an
like
awful
that.
company name.
Nobody knows who they are. But yet, if you've ever listened to the radio, ASCAP is involved in literally everything that you hear.
Oh, weird. It's like Radio Mafia.
They're the music licensing company. One of the companies that license all the when a radio station
like Audio Mafia.
Yeah, when a radio station plays a song, there is a fee that they pay to. There's other companies as well, but the main ones are ASCAP and BMI to play that song. Very similar to what Spotify does. When you stream a song on Spotify, they pay pennies to whoever the company
and those
is
companies supposed to give the money to pay the artist,
and they do.
Yeah.
And iHeartRadio, they're separate, right?
What?
No, iHeart pays to those companies as well.
Oh yeah, they still work with
Every
them.
station.
I thought they created their own thing.
They may have tried to, but it's all who owns the licensing, and
Right.
so
All right.
it's an interesting discussion, and like I think Katie kind of hit the nail on the head with it with some of these 3-4 hour podcasts. A lot of it is um a lot of it is background noise. There's a couple of podcasts that I
Fluff.
listen to on
Fluff.
a somewhat regular basis. I couldn't tell you a whole lot about them because it's just on in the background while I'm actively doing something and it's just noise. Um, I could tell you who the hosts are. I could tell you maybe what some of the topics were, but if you asked me to recap one of the whole shows that I listened to, I'd have no idea.
Yeah, well.
For better or for worse, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
All right. Gal, you want to talk about
Yeah. So this is for everybody with a Gmail account that use it outside of Gmail. So if you're connecting to your Gmail account with a mail app or a mail software on your computer,
like
they
if you're
are
using
going,
Outlook or EM
yeah,
Client or Thunderbird?
anything that is not the web interface for Gmail,
Right.
you're using Gmail to connect to it, then know this: they are deprecating regular authentication at the end of the month.
Mhm.
And they're moving everything to OAuth. So that means that if you want to be able to receive your mail or send your mail from something that is not the web interface of Gmail, then you need to go in and make sure that most of the applications today, Thunderbird, Outlook, all of that, they support OAuth for that, but you'll need to re-authenticate before. Sometimes you might need to remove the account and re-add the account. So there's some chores involved. It's a nuisance, but it is also good news. It means that the connection is much more secure, less susceptible to hacking. Um, it was already quite okay with two-factor authentication being forced and using app software, app password, but that is less secure than OAuth. So just know that if you're doing that, check your connections, see that you can use OAuth for the SMTP and the POP connections. Very, very important. Otherwise, you'll stop getting emails and it won't make any sense to you. So,
This
yeah,
is
I'm
going to
guessing
be
we'll also, yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, this is going to be a big issue for folks that are using legacy versions of Outlook, which I know is very popular,
Mm-hmm.
that Outlook 2013 or whatever that people are still using. Is there, you said they're forcing OAuth. Are they getting rid
Yeah.
of the app password? Is that functionality
Yeah.
going away? Because that, okay,
Yeah.
interesting. That's going
Yeah.
to break a
There's
lot of
no,
things.
yeah, it's gonna break. It's gonna be a pain for a while. I don't remember any big free email provider doing a move like this, so they might be the first substantial one to do it. And I'm guessing this will follow up with with Outlook.com and the rest. Um, Maybe this will be the one that does Yahoo Mail still exist?
It absolutely does.
Yeah. Maybe they're going to be the last one, just plain password, and they'll have an influx of incoming new accounts just because of that.
While it
Yeah,
is probably going to be a pain for some folks, I'm surprised they've allowed something like app passwords to stay as long as they have. They are so insane. I mean, when you hear, "Oh, it's an app password," it's just a
yeah,
regular password that's just really long,
Mm-hmm.
and that
yeah.
nobody
No, the
that's
benefits of an
all it
app
is.
password. Yeah, but the benefit of an app password is just a password that you use only in one place, and
Correct.
theoretically, you're not saving that anywhere.
Yeah.
So only if the database on Google it gets hacked, that is when that has been exposed. So yeah, it's okay, right? But it's not as good as something like OAuth, where every connection has its own unique ID and the authentication happens only once. So yeah,
But
know that it's happening and be prepared.
Nobody's going to lose mail.
No,
because you can always, if something is not right, you go to the web interface,
right?
you connect, and you see all your mail. So, but it'll
Right,
be
but keep in mind that
like
there are
Gal
some
started.
systems.
It's going to be a
Yeah, but
nuisance.
yeah, it's going to be a nuisance for a while, but it's
Yeah.
a worthwhile nuisance.
Yeah.
Work through it. Their online documentation is fair, is rather clear. So I don't see like you're not being thrown into the water without any help. But yeah, it's going to be a pain because let's put it this way: this is now going to be a moment in time where you are going to realize how many connections you actually have to Gmail that you didn't think about, right? Because suddenly something won't work, and you realize that that's the reason. Maybe it's a good time to take stock.
Yeah, you clean up stuff. You know what's
Yeah.
where. Yeah. All right. Listen to this. Some executives are embracing old technology like dumb phones and fax machines, seeking digital detox and prioritizing focus. They see these vintage tools as power moves, allowing them to control their time and avoid constant distractions. The Wall Street Journal writes in a story, and they said that these bosses believe old tech enhances leadership, enabling them to be present and productive. I mean, we already talked about that school in England that if you come in, you have a smartphone, they take it and they give you one of the old flip phones that you can just kind of text, in the way that you texted in the early days. So that's interesting, and I see it also as, hey, you know what? Things will stay a lot more secure this way.
Well, not
Yeah,
necessarily.
Secure with
SMS
fax
texting isn't
machine?
secure.
I mean,
Fax
SMS
machines are
texting
as
isn't secure.
insecure as it comes. I mean, all you need is somebody on the line and you
right,
can
but you
read the
see,
entire fax.
yeah, but people don't be on the line, are not doing on the line thing anymore. They sit somewhere in Taiwan and do it. I mean, in Hong Kong and do it. They sit in India somewhere and they do it. So it became, this is how we do things. So you don't see people doing it online. So yeah, if something like this becomes widespread, then yeah, you're gonna see the bad guys adjusting. Yeah.
I'm just curious how this is going to work.
Well, I mean,
I don't know what companies are going to say, "Oh yeah, it's fine." Don't no. We sent you a DocuSign. Oh, don't worry about filling that out. We're just going to print it. We're going to fax it back to you. Like that's. I just don't foresee that as as something that people are going to take
well,
very well.
and another interesting article here. The FDA on Thursday approved the first hearing aid software for Apple's latest AirPods Pro earbuds. According to Apple, the feature will be pushed to eligible devices through a software update in the coming weeks. The move, which comes 2 years after the FDA first approved over the counter hearing aids, could help more Americans with hearing loss start getting help. The FDA said in a they say in a statement, the feature works by amplifying some sounds, such as voices, while minimizing others, such as ambient noise. Users can take a hearing test in the Apple Health app, and their AirPods will adjust sound level automatically based on the results. The feature is only available on the AirPods Pro 2, which costs $249. let me tell you, for 249 and buying an iPhone,
Right.
no,
Hearing
an
aids
iPhone.
today is thousands of dollars, right?
Yeah, otherwise you pay. I mean, there's a lot of. I mean, I use some kind of a hearing aid. It's just an amplifier, and it is not what you think it is. I mean, it amplifies everything. And in order to get something that you can adjust, you are going to pay 2,000, 3,000, things like that. I tried some of those that said, "Oh yeah, we were that much," and you order it and you try it, and it's the same thing. This here to be able to adjust it to your environment, and it only would cost the cost of an iPhone plus 249. Wow.
That's still $3,000.
No, it's not.
An iPhone today, from the latest generation, right? It's more than $1,000, right?
That's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
but you can get an iPhone. I mean, I just got something from T-Mobile. You're eligible for an iPhone.
Yeah, but listen to the first part of how they're going to deliver it. They're going to deliver it to eligible phones. Means there's going to be some sort of hardware requirement on the phone for
Yeah,
it
so
to
you
pass
get
as
the
eligible.
latest. Yeah, so you get the
Yeah,
the
yeah,
latest. I would think. I don't know. It may be the last two generations or whatever. I'm not
yeah.
saying that you can do it
It
on an
sounds. I'm
iPhone
not. Look,
5.
it sounds good. I'm not.
Yeah,
I'm not dishing it at all. It sounds good. It's very interesting.
yeah,
And in a way, I hope they succeed. But what I really hope to see, I hope to see competition for it that is actually meaningful,
yeah.
right?
That will work
That's
with
what I'm.
others. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But it took the FDA 2 years.
Well, I mean, stuff like that always takes a long
Yeah,
time with any medical choice.
right.
Taking 2 years doesn't mean that they worked on it 2 years. It
No,
means
of
that they
course
had a
not.
backlog of 2 years and it took a week.
Yeah, it sat on
So
somebody's desk for 2 years. Yeah.
yeah. Remember my story about all of the stuff with the banks and stuff,
Yep.
right? With the mortgage. So they told me it's going to take like they gave me a date which is 2 months away,
Two.
and I've like when I'll get the reply from them,
Okay.
and but the guy also told me, right? Sometimes it's sooner, so check in,
Yeah.
right? Check in every once in a while.
Yeah.
So during those 2 months, I called them like every 2 weeks, and the reply from every other service provider. Oh no, the deadline here says September 20 or
Yeah.
August 28th. I'm and this is like we're a week away. So nobody looked at it before. It's
Uh,
like they're working by the deadline.
yeah. It'll get solved. Katie, you wanna tell us about Unity? Do you want me to
Uh,
read the article?
read the article.
Unity is canceling the runtime fee and reverting back to its existing seat-based subscription model. Al- Albeit with a price increase for Unity Pro and Unity Enterprise users. The engine maker introduced the controversial levy around a year ago. Initially, the runtime fee sought to charge developers a per installed tariff once projects had passed certain milestones. It was a decision that left many users feeling reeling, resulting in a colossal backlash that ultimately forced the company to rework, but not ditch the policy. So all I remember that was a big thing about Unity, and people start going to other.
Yeah, I mean that was the time where a lot of people jump ship, whatever, and they went to Godot and Game Maker and all these other um game engines. A lot of them they went to open source. So it was a great time to be an open source dev because they got flooded with new clients and with money. I mean, Godot is the one that I also switched to as well because everybody was just jumping to it, and I was like, oh, let me look at this, and it's pretty good game engine. I've enjoyed working in it. But they went from like I don't know $10,000 a month of funding to like $50,000 a month, and studios were donating a lot of money to them and to other open source game engines. So Unity really shot themselves in the foot. And I don't know. I mean, I guess
No,
they're
no,
gonna
no, no,
what?
no. They did good. Do that again. Tell them. Do that again.
Oh yeah,
So
yeah,
the
do it
open
again.
source, yeah.
Yeah, right. And what's crazy is because of their decision, a lot of YouTubers and people that were generating free content for Unity. I don't know if they were sponsored by Unity or what, but they would make tutorials on how to do this, which was like a gateway for people to learn how to use their software. It's like free advertising essentially. A lot of them switched to these other softwares. So not only did they lose the money in the companies, but they lost a lot of their community. So it was a decision they needed to revoke, and they're probably going to go back to it, like give it another 3-5 years or whatever, and they're probably going to try to reintroduce it. But for now,
So do you
yeah.
think this will help them bounce back?
I
No,
mean, yeah,
I don't think so.
I don't think. I think the damage is done.
Yeah.
Is Unity going to go away? No, because from a
no.
professional standpoint, um, a lot of the companies couldn't switch. Like a lot of the businesses, it's so the software is so integrated into their pipeline, and they have custom tools, and not only that, but you these people get trained on how to use Unity. It like they get trained in C sharp for the programmers, so it's not as easy as like going to another game engine that doesn't use C sharp or whatever. So as far as businesses, a lot of them didn't switch, but it did bring up the question on what are they going to do in the future. In the future, when they make their next game, are they going to stick with Unity, or are they going to look for alternatives? So it really, I think what hurt the most was their community, and just a bad reputation.
Yep. All right.
So
And here's just one more thing, and I hate to do this, but we talked about it last week. And this week it comes as the Wall Street Journal writes that Telegram has become the premier internet platform to buy anything from hacked data and weapons to illicit drugs and child sexual abuse material, according to current and former law enforcement officials and cybercrime researchers. This is going to be really, really difficult for them to get their reputation back. If this is if this is true, if it's not
In a
true, it's going.
way, Amnon, in a way,
Yeah,
I think that for their reputation, right?
yeah.
I don't think that actually hurts them. It will hurt them in terms of, okay, so how do I make money out of this platform eventually, right? And not fall into practices, our own business practices, right? That fall um, um, into a hole that is not in cahoots with those who use these platform this way. Remember, the reason so there's two reasons for using any messaging platform. One is the simple naive one, is I want to be in contact with a bunch of people that use this platform. Okay, that's one. And the second one, and that's the, let's call it the technical privacy side of it, is this network is encrypted and is protecting my identity, is protecting my content that I'm sharing with my people. And so that's the other part. These are
Okay.
the same two topics of people choosing to use Signal. In a way, the same two options of people choosing, right, to use WhatsApp or even iMessage, right? Compared to SMS, iMessage, that's the way they basically market this feature of an iPhone, right? Because if you use iMessage, then you're not exposed, right? That's part of it. So,
are you saying
what
that?
if, right? The same article comes out and says, we've looked at all of the phones that these criminals that we caught are using, and they're all using iPhones. Right? I
Yeah.
think that is on the same level of things, right? That's the same messaging in a way. Just by them using iPhones, that make the iPhone a criminal element. This is a messaging platform. It's doing its damnedest to keep the privacy of its users private. Now, the real question is what drives them. If there are criminal elements that are paying them or forcing them, hushing them, blackmailing them into not doing into not working with law enforcement, then that's a problem. Then they're involved already, right? The runners of the network. But if all they're doing is just making sure that the users of their network are not exposed and can trust the network, then just pointing a finger here, right? That is basically just creating a facade that this is an infrastructure that is actually built for privacy, and law enforcement doesn't like it because they can't control it. Doesn't make it sinister. So why are criminals using it? Is because it's good. So that's why I'm saying the image.
Why
right?
aren't they using Signal? Why aren't they
Nobody
using?
said they're not using Signal.
Well, they didn't.
Nobody said that.
Yeah, but there was never any mention anywhere about that they. Why is this this is
Because nobody caught somebody, some ring or some
Yeah.
criminal that the evidence showed that the way they communicated was Signal. That doesn't mean that they weren't using Signal, right? I mean, it's easy to register. There's one aspect of registering to Telegram compared to Signal. Signal must have a phone line attached to it
Mhm.
for registration, just for registration case,
Yeah.
not for anything else. Telegram can do it with a phone number or with an email. Okay, that's the only difference. Does that make Telegram more sinister? I do not think so. I think
I'm a firm
it just make it.
believer in the if there is smoke, then there is fire. And that's week
Yeah, but
after
who's
week.
creating the smoke?
I don't know.
Well,
Yeah,
right
you
now it's the
see?
federal government, right?
Well, I mean, it's here this week. It's a current and former law enforcement officials and cybercrime researchers. Yeah, it could be that it's the federal government. But
What
why?
I'm hearing here, I'm not anti-federal government, but what I'm saying is,
So wait,
it's the
wait, wait,
government officials,
wait.
right, that are in charge of. Go ahead.
Are you saying that somebody's after them just because they want to destroy them, and they're
I'm
bringing
not
up?
saying it's a competition thing, but I am saying, right, that when law enforcement encounters technology, right, that obfuscates communications, we've seen this again and again and again and again, right? They target the technology, and they target whoever is providing the technology. If we're talking about BitTorrent, for example, right? BitTorrent has a bad rap because it's used, I would even say primarily, right, for pirated content, but not only. And just because the mechanism is so effective, right, does not make it a criminal thing. So the bleeding liberals like me, right, I am there about protecting the technology and understanding that using the technology does not make you. I would like to see more everybody use Telegram. Okay, not only the criminal side, because there's very good in the infrastructure that it
Well, I
runs,
mean,
right?
let's not
I would
get.
like everybody to use Signal. I would like that mindset to actually be the norm, and then that would make the point, the vantage point that the law officials come from, right? I would like them to shut it up and figure out how to solve their problem, but not by tracking communications like that, right? They need
Ah,
it a different way. That's all. It's harder for them.
Nick.
Yes, it's harder for them. But attacking the technology just because it's harder, that's not the way. That's what I'm saying.
Okay. All right. That's a good point. Nick, do you have any comments about this?
No, no, no.
Okay.
I mean, no, not necessarily.
Okay. And Katie, you playing Dungeons and Dragons,
Yes, I do
right?
play.
Okay.
That's
Let's
another thing that was attacked, right?
Why? Dungeons and
By those
Dragons?
who didn't understand it. Back in
Oh,
the
they're
80s, I'm
always
talking.
attacked. Like,
Yeah,
if anybody watches Stranger Things, I think it's the worshiping the devil.
yeah.
Well, this is actually a nice thing about it. It says since its introduction in the 70s, Dungeons and Dragons has become one of the most influential tabletop role-playing games, TRPGs, in popular culture, featuring heavily in Stranger Things, for example, and spawning a blockbuster movie release last year. Over the last decade or so, researchers have turned their focus more heavily to the ways in which D&D and other TRPGs can help people with autism form healthy social connections, in part because the gaming environment offers clear rules around social interactions. According to the authors of a new paper published in the Journal of Autism, D&D helped boost players' confidence with autism, giving them a strong sense of kinship or belonging, among other things.
Yeah, I can see that.
That's nice.
Mm-hmm. For D&D, for me, it's helped me think on my feet, and it's helped me not be as embarrassed, because when I first started playing, I was like, I don't know what to do, or you have this character, and then it's pretty much like an open sandbox. Like the person that's running the game throws these obstacles in front of you, and then you have to think about what to do. And so it's helped my brain adapt and calculate and also eventually just like have fun with it and do improv and stuff. So it's complicated and it can be scary, but it's definitely a lot of fun, especially when you're playing with your friends or you get people that are open. That's another thing too. It's no fun to play with people that aren't open to mistakes or yeah, it's like the rules with improv, yes, and instead of just like shut down.
Ah,
I think the most interesting part of Dungeons and Dragons is the art that it went through, right? Because it was first vilified, and every attempt of it to enter mainstream media was usually a failure until last year, right? Until that movie that came out last year,
I
and
would
suddenly,
I
what's
would
that?
argue that Stranger Things really put it on the map.
Yes, Stranger Things is the one that gave it a positive nostalgia spin. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But it's like now it's okay to accept Dungeon and Dragon,
You
and
know,
it took about 40 years.
yeah, you know what's crazy is I actually attribute all of this quote unquote nerd culture that's suddenly okay to have an interest in to the Big Bang Theory. And the Big Bang Theory has like my mom knows what World of Warcraft is, not because I play it, but because she saw it on Big Bang Theory. And she knows what D&D is because of Big Bang Theory. And it has really exposed those kind of nerd things to people that probably were a little apprehensive about it, or be like, what is this weird thing that my son or daughter does with their group of friends or whatever, to being like, oh, I get it. And it's funny because when I'm talking about things that I'm doing, like for instance, my 3D printing business, and when I'm talking about it with my mom, and she'll be like, "Oh, it's like that episode with Penny when she was making those." I don't remember what it was, like an episode where she was like making hair clips or whatever, and it took off on social media, and she had to like do like 10,000 in a
Mm-hmm.
weekend. And so mom's like, "Oh yeah, that was an episode of Big Bang Theory." And I'm like, "Thank you, Big Bang Theory." I don't like the show because I don't like sitcoms and it drives me crazy. I can't stand laugh tracks, but it has been the biggest educational format for to like bridge that gap between the generations.
That's
Nice.
So
that's interesting what it's saying. But look, Big Bang Theory is a result of other stuff that happens before that, right? If you go all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, all of that, the success of the comic book
oh yeah.
genre in cinema, right? And that goes back to 1990. That goes back to Clerks by Kevin Smith, right? Which
Yeah.
was just this single guy in Jersey, an indie film he did with his own money, right? It just became a success, and all it did, right, was just a bunch of geeks while they're working talking about cultural shit like that, right?
Yeah.
Their culture specifically, the
Yeah.
nerd culture. So yeah, I get it.
And I was gonna add to that too, like, cause I go to conventions, specifically like anime and comic book conventions, to sell my stuff. In the past, before Big Bang Theory, when I was like, oh, I'm going to this convention, and parents were like, I don't really understand. I
Yeah.
guess go have fun with your friends. Now mom's like, oh look, they're cosplaying. I'm like, how do you know what cosplaying is? It's like, oh, it's an episode of Big Bang Theory. I'm like, again, thank you, Big Bang Theory, because out of all of the years I've tried to explain this stuff, it just doesn't sink in. But Big Bang Theory again, and so now I like know the episodes, like the World of Warcraft episode, where like Penny again, it's like Penny gets obsessed with something, but she got like super into the off-brand version of World of Warcraft, and so I was talking to my mom about, oh, the new one's coming out or whatever, and I have it, and she's like, oh, you're gonna be like Penny. She was like, be careful, don't get too addicted. I'm like,
But that's the
She
funny
never
thing,
did.
right? Penny is the part of the normie. Is the
yeah,
part
the
of
normie.
the audience basically. She's the entry point to that
Yeah.
group. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's a good thing.
It's like it's the same way that Seinfeld and Friends introduced the world to New York culture, right? To what is like to live in New York. So
Yeah.
they made it a staple in all of the terms and the happenings. So yeah.
All right. Well, with this, we'll end the show for today. Anything you want to add?
Nah, I'm hungry.
All right. So thanks, Katie. Thanks, Nick. Thanks, Gal. And if Spence is listening to us, hey, Spence.
Probably still
And
asleep.
thank you, everybody. Good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Donna, Dina, Mati, Eleanor, Sarid, Yaakov, and Yael. Thank you for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing, back up your hard drive, and update your virus scanner. And change any same passwords where you use them. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at computers2know.com. And now I need to change something here. Well, Nick is back. Nick, I don't remember when is the show. What is the station? It's WBT.
WBT in Charlotte. Yes,
in
sir.
Charlotte, but I mean it's also online, right?
It will be it'll be on YouTube hopefully by midweek.
Okay, and that's
Yep.
Monday through Friday, 5 to 6. It's the
AM.
AM. That's the
And
Carolina.
what are your plans for nickcraig.com?
I'll switch that over in the next couple days once we
That's
get
fine.
everything
Yeah,
up and
but
rolling.
so anyway, Nick does Monday through Friday, 5 to 6 a.m. He does the Carolina Journal show on WBT. Next week we'll have the information how to do it, and in the meantime you can go and check nickcraig.com, and Nick says he's going to update it. He's going to update it. And also, Nick and Brian do the Infection Podcast on Twitch, and you need to go to infectionpodcast.com and find out when the live show is going to be on, or just download the last show or any of the shows and listen to them on your own. Have a great week, and we'll be back together next week.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by StreamingGear.com and DeltaForce.net.